Hello there. Welcome to Integrated Spectrum of Health presentation. My name is Lynn Jocelyn. I am a functional medicine trained physician assistant, have a certification from the Institute for Functional Medicine, as well as I'm a certified food and spirit practitioner. Today, we're going to talk about a very complex topic, but I'm going to try to really simplify it so that you can answer 3 questions. What's important in it for you? Why do you need it for optimizing your health? And what can you do in your day-to-day to support your methylation? So let's first talk about what methylation is. Methylation is the process by adding a methyl group to a molecule. So it seems simple enough. It's an important reaction that happens multiple times in our body every second. Like it's going on in all different systems in our body, different organ systems, and it's a cellular process. So what is a methyl group? A methyl group is 3 hydrogen and 1 carbon atom. So you're like, thanks, I've already taken biochemistry. What's in it for me? That's a question we're asking. And that's why you're listening to this presentation. What can you do about it now? And why is this important for optimizing your health? So this is a very busy slide. We are not going to go into detail. You do not need to know this. I just wanted to show you the complexity of methylation. So this shows an example of multiple systems that rely on methylation for optimizing health in our systems in our body. So I am going to break this down in a couple and show you a few of these areas in more detail. So the first cycle we're going to look at is the methionine homocysteine cycle. If you're working with me, most likely we've talked about your homocysteine, or we will along the way. Homocysteine is one of the, it's an amino acid, and it's one of the things I'm able to measure by blood to give me an idea, a glimpse at perhaps how well your body is methylating. So there are many genes that support our methylation cycle. One of them is MTHFR, and the MTHFR gene transcribes, or it contains the information to create the MTHFR enzyme in our body. And this is an important enzyme that helps us take folate. Folate is not something we can make in the body. We have to get it from dietary sources. So we eat something high folate-rich diet. If we have this enzyme that's working well, that enzyme breaks the folate down, or actually adds a methyl group, and it becomes methylfolate. Methylfolate is the active form of folate. It's the type of folate that we are able to use in the body for health. And so this is the folate method, and I'm going to talk more about that because folate in its active form is critical in many of our neurochemical hormones. So that's one area. This other area over here, I want to take your attention to. Let's start with SAMe. SAMe is what we call the universal methyl donor. So it's a molecule in the body that is able to donate, to give up, to take back methyl donors throughout the body. So SAMe is really important. And in this, methionine is also an amino acid that we get as a dietary protein. So we take that dietary protein, that amino acid in the body through dietary. It goes through a chemical reaction and is given up the methyl donor over here to the DNA and RNA. It then recycles back to and creates homocysteine. Homocysteine is very important in our cardiovascular health, as well as part of this process that is transferring the methyl donors around. So homocysteine is then catalyzed back to methionine so that this process can keep going. If somebody's MTHFR gene is not functioning, they either have a gene deletion or it's not functioning efficiently, homocysteine will be high because this will be backed up. So if homocysteine's high, I question, how well is the MTHFR gene working? There are cofactors we can give to support how well that gene works if you have a less efficient gene. Homocysteine also goes down this pathway, which is very important to create glutathione. Glutathione is what we call the master antioxidant of the body, so it helps in detoxification. So important cycle, that methylation is key. To take folate from a dietary protein and methionine and make them active elements in the body that we can use. Okay, so this is this cycle again, looking at the methionine cycle, the folate cycle, a little bit more detail. And then it talks over here how I showed you before, SAMe goes into and it gives up that methyl donor that can methylate DNA and make a difference in our epigenetics. So this, another busy slide, we're not going to go into too much detail. The reason I have this on here is I want you to come over here and look at these bright colors. These are all the cofactors. So thiamine, riboflavin, niacin, pantothenic acid, peroxidine, biotin, folate, cobalamin. These are many of the B vitamins that are necessary cofactors in these enzymatic products. So if you see, the colors correspond to where they show up and where they're needed. So in the folate cycle, we need B2. Down here in the Krebs cycle, where we actually make energy, we get ATP, which is the currency, the money of the body. So the body's able to, or it's kind of like the gas of the body. Look at all these cofactors that are necessary for that. So when I say to eat foods, folate rich, B vitamin rich, this is why. So it's really important, because if we're low on some of these vitamins, these cycles don't work as effectively. So taking another look here at folate metabolism and MTHFR. Remember, MTHFR is a gene that has the information to make the MTHFR enzyme, which takes folic acid and makes it the active form of folate. And we need it in the active form. So here's why. So I want you just to take a quick shot at this. Folic acid comes in as a dietary protein. It becomes tetrahydrofolate, and then it becomes 5-methyl tetrahydrofolate, the 5-MTHF. Now, here's why this is important. Look at all these: serotonin, melatonin, and dopamine. Serotonin and dopamine, really important neurochemicals to help with our mood, and melatonin, very important to help with sleep. Look up here. So we looked, this is the activated folate here, right? The 5-MTHF that becomes activated. We take dietary folate in the body, we activate it by the MTHFR enzyme, and it becomes 5-MTF. So if we either don't have those cofactors or the MTHFR is not working really efficiently, we don't get this very important tetrahydrobiopterin, BH4. And look here, tryptophan, amino acid comes in through our diet. L-phenylalanine, amino acid comes in through our diet. Arginine, dietary. Homocysteine, dietary. And we also make it through the cycle. But look here, BH4, and this is the 5-MTF, all are critical in making these neurochemicals. So this is all related, but just really important that our body is able to take those dietary proteins in and make them the active forms. Now we're going to look at a pictorial form of this that might simplify it even more. So take a look here. We've got the water wheel here, collecting the water so that it can go down and be used. So initially, the methylation cycle, think of it as this cycle here. The MTHFR gene is what's making this work, and what is methylating the folate, methylating the homocysteine, adding that methyl group to the methionine. And then SAMe, remember, it's our universal methyl donor. So it's the molecule that can give it up easily to so many different systems in the body. So folate is unusable in the folate dietary form. We've got to methylate it with this process to make it usable. So let's move on here. So why? What is the other end? What processes are important with these methylated amino acids in their active form? So over here, if this water is going to the beautiful flowers, this is methylation activates phosphatidylcholine, which is a really important molecule in the Krebs cycle. Melatonin, important for sleep. Creatinine, important for kidney function, and our neurotransmitters, dopamine, serotonin. And it even trickles down to norepinephrine and epinephrine through a different methylation cycle, but equally as important. Methylation also is very important in how we detoxify. So proper and healthy methylation, we're able to get rid of excess histamine. We're able to detoxify estrogen and move it through the body, and the metabolites of estrogen, and toxic chemicals such as arsenic. So really important. So what nutrients do we need to support this methylation cycle? So we know we need a healthy MTHFR gene and the expression of the enzyme. What other nutrients do we need? So we need B9, which is the methylated folate. Remember, it's when we had that methyl group. We need B12. So we can take B12 in from our dietary sources. To use it, it must become methylated. We need riboflavin, which is B2. And folate and folic acid are dietary sources of them are different. And it is important to get the folate. And that's another topic for another talk. But enriched breads and things like that with folic acid are not the type of folate that you want. Okay, so just adding here, glutathione. Remember, we talked about glutathione is an important antioxidant that is made from homocysteine being methylated, and it goes to glutathione, which is the important detoxifying antioxidant of the body. So let's take another look. What slows down this wheel other than genetically, maybe a genetic variation or SNP of our MTHFR gene? What else affects that, how well that's working? Leaky gut. So our immune system gets affected by leaky gut, viruses, infection, and stress. Stress is always affecting our systems. Okay, so moving along on this. So we're going along, methylating. This is what the methylation activates. This is how methylation helps our body detox. This is what slows down the wheel. This is where the nutrients are. What happens if you're an over-methylator? So some people will have a genetic variation that makes their methylation cycle really fast. So this wheel is going really, really, really quickly. And you get increased production of neurotransmitter serotonin and dopamine. Typically, somebody personality-wise may exhibit super creative, artistic, passionate. They may be a thrill seeker because remember, they're making a lot of dopamine. They may also struggle with anxiety, panic attacks, be super sensitive, hyperactivity. Let's see, what else is here? Poor reaction to, like, if you're given an SSRI, which is an antidepressant, you may not react real well to that because it's building up in the system. You may have sleep problems. And so these are just ways, without actually testing, that might give us some clues. Okay, what happens if somebody's an undermethylator? This wheel is going really slow. So they may have decreased serotonin, feel sluggish, lethargic, may be more predisposed to depression, perfectionism, suicidality, higher achievers, type A people. SSRIs may work very well because it's helping the system. May be sensitive to histamine because if they're undermethylating, they're not getting rid of the histamine as quickly, and seasonal allergies. So again, this is just another look at overmethylator symptoms and traits. This is pretty fascinating because it really does follow along if you do genetic testing. And oftentimes people do fit into these symptoms traits. This is overmethylators, undermethylators. So again, chronic depression, seasonal allergies, high libido, obsessive compulsive, thinking, ruminating about past events. So these are, ideas. Now, if you're somebody that has some of these, it doesn't absolutely mean you're an overmethylator or an undermethylator, but it guides our treatment and guides support. So healthy methylation is important for things like, now this is just going to kind of go over everything I just showed you. Regulating our hormones, remember, like serotonin and dopamine. It helps detox and clear out heavy metals, chemicals, toxins. Helps make energy. Remember, it went down that other cycle, and it helps make the citric acid or the Krebs cycle create ATP. It repairs DNA damage and supports neurotransmitters, melatonin and epinephrine. So that's why we want to support our methylation systems. What can you do to support methylation? Eat plenty of fruits and vegetables. The rainbow of produce is critical. Specifically, fruits and vegetables high in folate are really important. Reducing alcohol consumption, because drinking alcohol depletes our B vitamins. And we know, we talked about it, we saw a slide, all those B vitamins, all those colors are important in so many cofactors to make those enzyme reactions go smoothly. Reducing stress in high periods of your life through yoga and meditation can really support methylation as well. When methylation does not work properly, what symptoms can we have? So this is, again, some review. Fatigue, depression, insomnia may be linked to cardiovascular disease. We do know when homocysteine is elevated, right? When we're having that back up and our methylation is not working real well, homocysteine is one of the amino acids in the body, when really high, can be linked to cardiovascular disease. Hormone imbalances, if we're not getting rid of the metabolites. So estrogen, we make it in our body, we use it, and then we break it down, and we need to be able to get rid of it. If we don't, we can get hormone imbalances, and it can be linked to cancer, fertility, or pregnancy issues. So you're probably by this point going, oh my gosh, do I have a methylation problem? Some symptoms that you may notice, if you do, you may show signs of aging faster than people your same age, trouble sleeping or digesting food, get sick or injured more often than other people. These are pretty general symptoms. There's also some testing we can do. We can check your homocysteine level. Again, that's going to be an indirect way to really look to see if there's some methylation issues. We can do genetic testing to actually look at your MTHFR genes. There's, on that other level too, we can also do oat testing. There's organic acid testing, also has a section on how well we methylate. So we can take a peek there. More indicators that you may have methylation problems. You may have a low level of vitamin B12 and or active folate. Histamine intolerance. So if that histamine's building up in your body and there are some classic symptoms that happen with histamine intolerance, or something called mast cell activation syndrome. If those things are going on, we will really want to support your methylation. Heart disease, high homocysteine levels, low HDL, high LDL, and high triglycerides may indicate that you've got methylation problems. Or you may know you have genetic variants of the MTHFR or CBS genes. So let's see, what causes an impaired methylation cycle? These we've talked about, so just to go over certain genetic variations, or something called SNPs, and that is called a single nucleotide polymorphism. It just means a slight genetic variation in the genes that code for how our body methylates. You may be somebody that is not getting enough of the vitamins and cofactors needed for these biochemical processes. You may have certain medications that you're taking for other illnesses that actually deplete vital nutrients to make this cycle efficient. And you may have been exposed to environmental toxins like heavy metals. And you may be insufficient at donating those methyl donors. So you may be somebody where we need to actually give your body the active form. We may need to give you in supplement form methylfolate or methyl B12. So methylfolate, like I just said, is a methyl donor for the body. We can give it in supplement form, but when we get it from dietary sources, it is in the form of folate. So our body needs to be able to add that methyl donor on it so that it can actively use it for DNA methylation and repair, blood formation, energy production, regulation of gene expression, and detoxification, as I've already discussed. So what are the take-home points that you can do beginning today to begin to support healthy methylation? Support with food. Eat the rainbow of food. I mean, many of these things, many of these takeaways you've heard before because they help so many systems of health. But foods high in folate, so cruciferous vegetables, dark green leafy vegetables are very important. Avocados, broccoli, Brussels sprouts, all of these things are really important to support the cofactors that you need for your body to take you through those methylation cycles. Sleep your way to methylation. It is critical for our health that we sleep. And there are studies that show people with sleep deprivation that it directly is impacting how well their methylation cycles are moving and how efficient they are. Support your stress response. In times of increased stress, you are putting more stress on these neurochemicals in your body and how well your body is using those up and methylating. Address and assess your stress and cortisol dysregulation. So if you've had extreme stress, chronic stress, it's really important to address one, let's assess. We may do some testing to take a look at your cortisol and see where you are in that diurnal curve that we've talked about in some other talks. Vagal toning exercises, here we go. If you haven't tested and you're like, oh my gosh, I've been living a very stressful life. I've been in burnout with my work. I am in a stressful relationship. You can guarantee you're probably having cortisol dysregulation. Doing those vagal toning exercises that I've shared with you time and time again. You have handouts on these, deep breathing, humming, gargling, nature, all of those things helps take you from that fight or flight, that sympathetic state into your rest and digest, your parasympathetic, which helps balance and regulate your cortisol levels. You can supplement with B vitamins and folate. Folate is actually B9. Now, you may consider the methylated forms of these B vitamins if you're somebody that has a, for sure you have some inefficient methylation cycles. Or if you're somebody that's concerned about that or been under a lot of stress, we may consider methylated forms. I do want to say that methylated forms are not for everybody. It is really important, and we're going to get to it in a bit, but that you take these with intention. So let's talk about it, because for some people, the methylated forms might actually make them more anxious, more panicky. And of course, dietary forms are always the best. Cofactors to the rescue. So again, riboflavin, which is B2. Zinc is very important in these processes. Choline, TMG, vitamin B6, lithium, which is often in our water supplies, magnesium. Again, magnesium so important. So these cofactors help all of these processes work more smoothly. And timing. If you're somebody that thinks perhaps you have a sluggish or an overactive methylation cycle, you will want to supplement with B vitamins and consider methylated B vitamins. And that, remember, when we add the methyl group, it becomes active, so it bypasses the reaction in your body to make it active, because that reaction may not be working as efficiently. But sometimes, if your body is not used to this, initially your symptoms can get worse. So we will want to start low and go slow. And B vitamins, especially methylated B vitamins, are certainly not the kind where more is better. It's finding that sweet spot. So thank you for staying and listening to this talk. This is like I said, a very complex topic that hopefully I simplified down and gave you a little bit more information. But to keep it simple, just to recap, eat the rainbow, get your sleep, do your vagal toning, supplement when necessary. And if you're curious on digging deeper into this, let's talk about it at your next private visit. All right, I hope you have a great day, and we'll see you on our next presentation.